welcome back to my channel. And in this video I'm just going to be talking about some of the books that I've recently read that I really enjoyed, and this can be seen as recommendations. Now the weird thing is I read most of these for a book club, which is weird because I join book clubs but I never read the books, so this is an achievement for me. Thank you. I think the first one I'm going to be talking about is the one that I really liked the most, and this is Read at the Bone by Jacqueline Woodson. This is an adult novel, and it's told in this really like non-chronological, is that a word? It's told in this like random timeline, you know, we jump from and to, and we're following this girl and her mother and her family, and the story starts off at her like 16th birthday. The main girl we follow, her name's Melody, so while we follow her story as the main story, this is so convoluted to explain, we follow her story as the main story, but we also get to know a bit about her parents and her grandparents. I thought the book was told in a very poetic style, and it was not a fun book because it is very sad and very deep, and it gets very dark, and it's so thin, you know. I was confused about how this was going to work and everything was going to fit in here, but it did excellently. So this book was filled with what I would deem poetry, heartbreak, metaphors, and also a lot of love. There's a lot of love in this book. The main plot of the book, one could say, is a teenage pregnancy, which is not something I see too often in adult books. You know, maybe there's a time, it's just something I haven't seen personally a lot of. I would usually see teen pregnancy stories in young adult books. The book also really explores sexuality, classism, racism, and stereotypes. This multi-generational story is told in both first person and third person, which was fun for me. I enjoyed that aspect of the book, and I think it was like one of the first books I've read that have been told in both ways. We get each character's history and story and what brought them to this point where they are today. What I also really liked about this book is that it sounds very convoluted, and it is a very like complex idea, and the storyline is like so complex, but I found it pretty easy to understand. There was never really a moment where I was lost and didn't know what was happening. But the overall plot of the book, there isn't really one. I think this is more an exploration of the characters themselves, and for someone like me who really enjoys characters above plot, this is the perfect book because we get a glimpse into the characters' lives. We get their history and then we get the present, but we don't end off with this happy little conclusion. Or, you know, overall I really like the writing in this book. I think that's what made me give it 5 stars, and I'd highly recommend it because it's so short that you're not investing that much time into it, although this is a book that I would have invested the time in. There was a character that I absolutely despised in this, but I also kind of I just had so much emotion for her and what she was going through, and it's just, I want to hug her, but also I really don't like her, and if an author can do that, I'm always happy about it. The next one I'm going to talk about is pretty famous, but I don't know how famous it is here on booktube, and that is Where the Crawdad Sings by Delia Owens. So this is Delia Owens' debut novel. She's written some non-fiction books. I think she's an ecologist or biologist. She's a wildlife scientist. So she's written some non-fiction, she's co-authored some non-fiction books before, but this is her first fiction book. But you can really see that someone with a lot of knowledge about nature wrote this book, and that comes because it really comes through in the story, and I thoroughly enjoyed that. So what is this one about? The plot of this one is a bit easier to explain than the other one, because the other one there wasn't really a plot, it was more about the characters, while this one there's definitely a plot, but it is about the characters. This book is about Kaya. We meet her when she's, I believe, 6 years old. She's very young and she gets abandoned by everyone, and she grows up in the swamp alone. She fends for herself, you know, she goes through this world by herself, and she teaches herself things. This story is told in 2 timelines. So one is the more modern timeline, and the other timeline follows Kaya as she's growing up. So that one starts when she's abandoned, and the modern one in 1969. The modern timeline starts in 1969 when a body is found. So that's where our murder mystery starts. And the first timeline, I think that is in 1952. That is where the first timeline starts, when Kaya is first abandoned as a child. We kind of follow Kaya's coming of age story. Kind of get to experience the swamp or the marsh where she lives with her. She's known as like this marsh girl. We get to experience her relationships with the very few people that she actually has relations with. And you know, we get to experience the world through fresh eyes, and I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed the writing as well. I kind of shy away from historical fiction, although I've noticed that I'm just somehow reading it more and more. I generally shy away from it because the writing's always so dense and it's quite difficult to get through. But I didn't find that in When the Crawdad Sings, where the Crawdad Sings. Also, what I found, and shockingly, there was like a lot of feminist messages in this book. At the end of the book, I was so satisfied with the conclusion. Like at the end, I was really satisfied with how everything turned out. I was really happy about how this book turned out. It was still a very good ending, and I highly recommend this book. The next one I'm going to read is Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine by Gail Honeyman. So this is a very popular book, and I think a lot of people have read it, but I would just reiterate that it is truly a really good book. What I really liked about this story is the main character, Eleanor. She's very socially awkward, and you know, we get to learn some things in the end of the book about why she's this awkward. But it was just fun seeing someone trying to adjust with the world, and it's like she's an alien. She doesn't know what social norms are because she's lived a very isolated life, which like she's lived a very isolated life. Clearly there's an underlying theme in these books. It's just in these two. She's very isolated, but then in the course of the book she kind of wants to go out a bit more, and that leads to Eleanor having a lot of like new interactions, which are so interesting to read about from the perspective of someone who just doesn't know anything that's happening. It's obviously very hard because Eleanor went through a lot of like difficulties as a child, and yeah, we only really get to learn about that by the end of the book, but still really good. We in my book club we did like discuss how Eleanor kind of is a cat, and I totally agree with that because Eleanor's a cat. She's kind of rude. She's kind of grumpy, but she's still just so kind of sweet, I would say. Eleanor does have a lot of like prejudices, and she's very judgy, but we almost go to a point where she unlearns it, so we experience this unlearning with Eleanor. The ending could have been done better. The twist could have been done a bit better. I didn't think it was necessary for there to be a twist in the end, but it was still over. Like I really still enjoyed it. Another book that I really enjoyed, like unexpectedly, I didn't think I'd enjoy it. Well, I had my expectations, but but they weren't that high, but they were like made, and then some. And that is Gumiho by Cat Cho, or The Wicked Fox. This is the first in what I think is only going to be a duology by Cat Cho. She's a Korean author, and her story is a Korean-based fantasy, so it is just fantastic. I don't know much about mythology in general or folklore. It's not something I go out of my way to learn about, so you know, to learn about it in a book was interesting. And it's also set in Seoul. The story follows Mi Young, who's a nine-tailed fox, and she accidentally exposes herself to this guy who is Jae-hoon. Like she exposes her power. She doesn't like expose herself, just her powers to him on accident, and then she loses her powers. And the day right after that, she walks into her new school, and there is Jae-hoon. Or it just follows the two, like Mi Young trying to get her powers back, but it also follows the friendship she develops with not only Jae-hoon but also with his friends and other teenagers her age who are just normal people with no superpowers. It reminded me very much of a K-drama, which is why I enjoyed it. Like the tropes you'd see in K-dramas came forth in this book, which just made it so much better, because that's You know, I like K-dramas because of the tropes, so obviously I really like this for the tropes, and I was expecting it because that is what a lot of the reviews said. Before I read this book, all the reviews were like, yes, if you like K-dramas, you would like this because you see a lot of the similarities, and I did see the similarity. Obviously, it's a very cute book. There's a lot of romance and like cheesy friendship moments, but it's all beautiful, and I loved it. Like, I'm here for that. I'm here for the cheese. I'm there for the cheese. Read this one. It's Korean. They're Korean words, but Katcho did make a video on pronunciations, and there is a glossary at the back of the book, and it's really not that many Korean words. The last book I'm going to be talking about is also a really good one, and that is My Sister the Serial Killer by Oyinkan Braithwaite, and this is a Nigerian author. This book came out, I believe, 2018, and it's been talked about a lot, but I feel like not many people have read it. And I kind of want people to read it because it wasn't a 5-star book for me. I gave it like 4 stars, but I still really enjoyed it because of all the trash people in here. No one's good, everyone sucks, but it's great. Super great. This one is like these two sisters. One is a little bit of a murderer, and the other one is just like, I'll clean up the blood for you and just make sure you don't get in trouble, which is kind of shitty, but hey, sisters. Now this little murdery one kind of has a thing for the doctor, who our main character, the sister that always cleans up the other one's mess, is in love with. And obviously she doesn't want her sister being in love or having a relationship with this man because it might end with him being dead. I will be honest, I would not have mind, because I really don't like that main character. He's kind of an asshole, but I think that might have been on purpose. Because like I say, everyone in this book is there's like one person that's a decent human being, like maybe one. The rest are all just garbage, but I love them so much, and I loved reading about them. And it's kind of funny. I thought the book was really funny. I thought it was really sad at some points, really tragic, and just really messy. Man, I don't know how else to tell you that I thought this book was messy. Like, I feel like there's not much much else I can say or want to say about this book, because you know that is the plot of the book. But it's interesting how it's told. It is a very short book, and the chapters are even shorter. Like, chapters are like 2 pages, yo. So I think a lot of beauty standards are also mentioned in this book, like Western beauty standards are kind of criticized a bit, but it's more, I don't think it happens like the first time I read the book. I didn't really pick up on it, but that's just because I'm a little dumb, you know, or like because my third eye was like not paying attention enough. Because the sister who's a serial killer is kind of seen as this very nice person. She is very like confident and just like demands everyone's attention, but then they're also talking about like her light skin and how beautiful she is. And with the other sister, they talk about how ugly she is especially compared to her sister, but they'll mention things like, or they'll mention things like her dark skin or her thick lips, and like very Western standard beauty standards. And I don't know, I know like here in Namibia, I think that is very prominent. People do regard Western beauty standards as like the beauty standard. That's what you need to look like to be beautiful, otherwise you're just not. And from this book, it seems to me like it's the same in Nigeria. I would think in a lot of places where the West really all of Africa was infiltrated by the West, so I would assume that those ideals have kind of been left behind still, and I think that's what comes forth in this book. But yeah, overall, really enjoyed the story. I think it is one that you should definitely read because it's so short. You don't waste the time. You like getting a good story, it's worth it, bro. It's just do it. Also, the cover is really nice. The cover, I feel like the cover really gives you what the story is, and I like that. I like the story. Okay, those are all the books I'm going to recommend to you for now, and I just realized that they're all women. That's great. That's cool. That's a coincidence. I hope you could find a book in this video that you actually enjoyed. If you've read any of them, please let me know. If you've not, let me know if you plan on reading any of them and what your thoughts are. But once again, thank you so much for watching this video, and if you're still here, damn. But okay, thanks, bye.